All right, welcome everybody back to another episode of the Big Doug and Carmi Show, your one-stop shop for all things Commanders. It is week 1. JP Finlay is back. JP, I think this is year 3 doing the intro for the season podcast. Obviously, we appreciate your time. What's going on, man? You excited for the season?
Definitely, man. You go through so much stuff, and then you finally get to the finish line here. I guess it's the start line and the finish line, if that makes sense. But heck yeah, man. I fired up. I'm just seeing injury reports and stuff are just coming out. They just cut Byron Pringle.
Oh, wow.
Kind of getting ready for everything that's going to happen Sunday, trying to figure out these inactives. It's this is what you do it for. It was a weird mix week 1, I think, kind of across the league, but like everybody's still kind of in like season mode, like, oh, what's your season prediction and all that. But like they got a game. Like they got to figure out who's playing, who's not playing, all those things.
And that's what we're here to talk about. You mentioned the injury report. A couple things. Marcus Mariota's not going to play. Do you think is he there because of what he provides intellectually, experience-wise? Is this one of those deals where it doesn't matter whether he's the number 2 on game day? Will he be the number 2 on game day? You have any insights into that?
Theory on Twitter primarily that like, oh, just cut him and make a quarterback's coach. Like, no, they think he can play. Okay. And they think they don't have to change the offense if he goes in, right? And so that's why he's there. This is not it's not a participation award. Like they want him. Brian Johnson was with him in Philly. I mean, they signed him pretty early in the process, pretty clearly to be their backup. I think they really value everything he brings, in the meeting rooms and just kind of, his track to the NFL is damn near identical to Jayden, number 2 overall pick, Heisman Trophy winner, all that. That all has value, but they wouldn't have signed him if he wasn't. What are they paying him? Like they're paying him real money.
Right.
So like anything in life, you can always just kind of look at the cash too. Like he's a valued backup quarterback part of this team.
The other one that I think people are paying a lot of attention to, of course, is the left tackle with Coleman.
$6 million.
A year or two ago, it was Sam Cosmi in and out at right tackle. It was not a great idea. It sounds like they're going to do that this week, but I guess I understand this a little bit more than that.
Rotation type stuff we're hearing about.
Yeah.
Shout out to Tischler. Mitch was on this. I think it's supposed to be hot and humid. I think it's kind of a conditioning thing that he hasn't played and they don't want to throw him out there. And I think they haven't given us specifics on the injury, but based on kind of the brace I saw Coleman wearing and what they have said about the injury, I wonder if it's more of like a labrum or a pec than it is like a shoulder. And basically with those kinds of things, it's pain threshold, right? And it's how long can you put up with? And since he hasn't had real reps, real contact, they probably want to make sure he's good with all that. DQ said today they're both going to play. And obviously a rotation at left tackle is not ideal.
Yeah,
I don't think that's like the long-term plan, but it's more of all right, this kid we really like is working his way back. Let's let him work his way in, smartly.
JP, we have asked all offseason to everybody we could find, anybody we could find, what will the offense looks like? We've heard 2012 RG3 style offense. We've heard 13 personnel. Do you have a grasp on what the offense might look like?
I think you see more 12 than 13, unless it's a goal line or like a clear jumbo kind of situation. I don't think it's 2012 RG3. That was kind of create a one read look and then read option. Jayden's like a legit pocket passer that can go through his progressions, work his way upfield. I think it's a refined passing attack, certainly with quarterback runs, but I think the quarterback run design will kind of be more like what Philly does now, rather than I think you'll have some read option. It'd be crazy not to, but I wouldn't look to 2012 because that was like, if you go back to what Kyle was trying to build that year, was you had a guy that wasn't a pocket passer in Robert, and he was starting right away, but he had incredible physical tools, both with the deep ball and his track speed. So they were accentuating that. I don't like the comp with Jayden and Robert, frankly. I just think they're very different players, very different people. Jayden's a total film nerd and is watching everything. And I think, like, to me, Jayden is a pocket passer. He just also can run really well. Like, he's not a running quarterback, if that delineation makes sense.
Yeah. JP, I think one of the more interesting storylines this whole offseason is the emergence of wide receiver 2. Do you think someone's going to step up and emerge as a wide receiver 2 in the wide receiver group, or do you think it's going to be a committee approach, or do you think it's going to be trial and error throughout the season? And I guess following up with that, Luke McCaffrey, what are your thoughts on him? Is he progressing pretty well?
I'll hope somebody steps up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I like Luke. I think Luke and Sennett will kind of advance as the season goes on. You know what I mean? I think those guys are going to have to get used to size, speed, toughness of the league. Luke's still kind of like, making that position change from quarterback to wide out. I think Sennett hits the ground running a little bit more. As far as like a number 2 wide out, I think their pass game, like, I think Terry leads them in receiving yards, right? I'm not going out on a limb there, but I think they're like number 2 and maybe even number 3 receiver aren't necessarily wide outs.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're going to lean on Ertz a lot, especially early. Ertz, as long as he's healthy. I think Eckler will be a big role in the pass game. I think B-Rob is going to catch far more passes than people are expecting to. And then I think Jayden will spread it around. I do think Diami has a chance. Diami showed a lot of really good chemistry with Jayden. Diami is a vertical. He gives them a real vertical threat. They haven't always had the vertical passer that Jayden is, who will really look to push it downfield. But I've also seen Diami look really good in August before. This is different offense, different quarterback. Definitely the most gifted quarterback he's worked with or Terry's worked with. But could that be OZ? Could that be Luke? I mean, hell, could it be Noah Brown? I don't know those answers. I'm not sure they do. I think some of this stuff will be kind of discovered as we go, but I think it's firmly possible over a 17-game season that the second leading receiver is not a wide receiver, if that makes sense. Like the guy with the most receiving yards, especially, I mean, if you combine the tight end position, like whatever that may be, because it's a war of attrition. Guys tend to miss time. But I'd say Diami has the inside track on it based on everything we've seen. But I want to see that on the field too.
You mentioned OZ. I talked to Matt Waldman the other day, who said when he was in college, he was more of the Debo role. What do you think their vision is for what Zacchaeus is in the offense?
I mean, he's not Debo's size and strength is that of like linebackers, and OZ is a much smaller, slighter player. So, like, I don't think there's a Debo role for OZ in this offense. I don't know what his role will be because he's lined up plenty on the outside. I think they've shown so little in the preseason, and the parts we were able to watch, we're not able to like really get into formation looks and stuff. But I think it is some combination of slot work and getting outside here and there. But I think what'll be really telling, like, what's the offense going to look like? That question, I think it's going to be fast. Whether it's up tempo or a full no huddle. Like, I think that is kind of the big surprise coming Sunday is how much of that we're going to see. And I think, ideally, if they're suited for that, that's great. But it also forces defenses to, like, ideally, they can create a mismatch formationally. That's a word. And then,
works. Yeah.
And then the defense can't sub as long as they're going up tempo and they don't sub. So if you can create that mismatch with whatever that looks like, that position group, that group that's out there, ideally will stay on the field. And I think with versatile backs like Eckler and B-Rob, and then a guy like Terry that can move all over the field, like I think that gives you perhaps a real situational advantage.
That real quick, George, does that mean no motion? I mean, in a league that's like predicated on motion more and more, that hurry up kind of kills the opportunity for motion, right? Does that matter?
It could. I wouldn't say it kills it, and I wouldn't say it's all like there's a difference to me between up tempo and hurry up, right? Like as long as the offense doesn't huddle and make a position a substitution, they're kind of dictating terms. I'm sorry, as long as they don't make a substitution, they're kind of dictating the terms. You could get to a huddle quickly, get to the line of scrimmage quickly, like all of those things, and still incorporate motion. In practice, we have seen motion. So the theory of no motion and all that, I think is flawed. But I'm not expecting this to look like Miami or something with motion. You know what I mean?
So, JP, I think one of the biggest questions this whole offseason is element of surprise for Washington walking in this year. We don't know what the offense is going to look like. We don't know what the defense is going to look like. I'm just curious, do you have any inclination what the defense will look like this upcoming year? Like 3 safety sets, are going to be pretty aggressive? Are they be blitzing? Like, what do you think the defense will look like coming up this year?
Safety sets. I think a lot of it will be kind of determined by how these corners play. I mean, Forbes and BSJ can be different players, BSJ has shown good play. He didn't last year, but he has shown that. Forbes had a really bad rookie season. That was also a really bad cornerback room. Like the position coach had never run a room before, whereas now you've got a ton of experience in there. We actually had Rondé Barber on the radio show earlier. He talked about how important position coaches are for corners. And I don't think he meant that specifically to Washington last season. He was saying like in his experience. If your corners are playing pretty well for you, Samerstill is a dog. Samerstill is going to be on the field. I like if
he's coming off the field,
maybe like in jumbo sets or something like goal line stuff. But I feel like Mikey's out there.
Yeah, I think so too.
As much as possible, right? So if he's out there and then your corners can play, you're probably not going 3 safeties unless it's like a clear, 3rd and 16 or something. One thing I think folks should get used to is Payne and Allen being set a little wider. And because if you go watch Quinn, if you watch Dallas, like they love blitzing in the A gaps with their backers. I think you'll see plenty of that. I think you'll see Luvu and Jamin moving around. I think the Rivera Del Rio defense was like super basic, and they were like, all right, we got these 4 horses up front. Let's just win that way. I think that will look dramatically different. I think there will be a lot more action, a lot more blitzing, a lot more kind of this amorphous secondary where it's not as easily identified at the line of scrimmage, kind of what the back end coverage looks are.
2 things quickly, because I know you got to run. We've heard talk of Samerstill outside. Do you think that's a thing? And then, of course, we'd love to know what your thoughts would be for the outcome of the game on Sunday.
Maybe on Mikey. I think, again, that might depend on how others play, right? Like if everybody's getting beat like a drum and he's showing you he's your best corner, then hell, do something. I think fans are going to love Mike Samerstill. If they already – maybe some already do, but I think folks will love him. I think for Sunday, there's so many unknowns, and on the other side is a team that was pretty good last year. Maybe they won a bad division, but they also beat Philly pretty good in the playoffs. I think Mike Evans, I looked up his stats earlier. In 4 games against Washington, he's gone for like 450 and 4 touchdowns. He's he's good against everybody. I think that's a problem. I think Washington could score. I really think they're going to move the ball. I mean, in 3 drives with Jayden Daniels on the field in the preseason, they didn't show a heck of a lot, and they had 3 scoring opportunities. They scored a touchdown, they kicked the field goal, and they missed the field goal. I don't know a lot about this defense yet. I think they got a lot of holes. I don't know what they got on the edges. I think the edges helped the backside. I don't know what they got on the backside. Like, it's hard for me not to lean Tampa just to win it. But, like, I think it's important for everybody to kind of keep a mindset that, like, dude, of course you want to win the games, right? Winning the games is what this is all about. But if we can all kind of keep the mindset that this is a long-term rebuild and doing things the right way, like if you go to Tampa and it's a 30-24 final and you were really competitive, like that's a step. And I think this year is more about growth than necessarily the win-loss column.
I couldn't agree more. JP, as always, we appreciate it. We're looking forward to the post-game, the new post-game show this year.
Be fun. Check us out.
No
Dude,
doubt.
I got to say, like, your production level and the guests you guys book, you guys do a hell of a job.
Thank you, buddy. We appreciate it. None of them better than you, pal.
Some of them. Thank you.
All right, JP.
Thanks, bud.
All right. Bring on man right here.
Yep. Yeah, I've got the
their thing for it. Cool.
Yep,
Let me do it.
it's in there.
All right, man, Rio, what's up, son? How you doing, man?
JP from JP to Rio. We're swinging for the fences today, George.
Exactly.
Week. We 2 days away from week 1. Let's go.
Absolutely, man. How you doing, man?
I got the crew back this year for the pick'ems, and we put it out today. Score predictions. Make sure you check them out on
Nicholas
X,
Cage,
Twitter,
Doug,
or whatever it is. Hey, had to throw it back to the
young strapping man there.
Vibes, bro. 2012 vibes.
Oh,
yeah, love it.
The Kool-Aid drinking couldn't be at a bigger high. Rio, you mentioned today on Twitter, and I thought it was priceless. If not now, when? I mean, this is the time before we start getting beat down to be excited.
Yeah, we get Sunday afternoons to be humble. We might as well go into the season with some positive the burgundy and gold Kool-Aid hitting different in September, man.
With all the sugar.
Absolutely. All of pour the whole bag in there, all the diabetes.
Let me pull up this list real quick. George, what did trying to remember? I did 23-20 on this thing.
I had a high scoring game. So speaking of Kool-Aid, I was slurping it down. So I'm walking in 31-28. Washington Commanders win.
Ooh, shootout season.
Yeah, shootout season. We'll see. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good right now. Jayden Daniels, I think it's going to be pretty explosive. Real, while Doug's pulling up the scores, what would make you happy walking into week 1, watching Jayden Daniels? Like, what would be a great takeaway from you?
Immediately look like he belongs. He goes out there, has a clear command of the offense, just a more like what we saw in the preseason on steroids. Like we actually get to see him a four-quarter sample size of what we saw in the preseason. I want to see him make plays with his mind, make plays with his arm, and when it breaks down, I want to see him take the soul of the defense, because that's why Dan Quinn said we drafted him, right?
Absolutely.
Important for fans to remember, I think, though, us included, that the game we watched last night, that guy running is not the guy we've got on our team, and that's okay. There have only been a couple of them that run like that. It's Lamar and it's Vic, and that's it. So,
and how many Super Bowl rings have been won between those two guys? I love them both, but
that's right.
Exactly. Got a very empty cupboard in that Super Bowl department. Our guy is a passer first, and I need it to stay that way.
And JP's, and not just JP, but JP was just on right now and said as much, like, don't forget. And this is one of the things the coaching staff love. It's the reason that they drafted him number 2 is that he is a pocket passer that has wheels. And that's important.
Wheels. Yes, sir.
So real quick with that, before you jump into that, Doug.
Yep.
I'm sure you guys are watching the game yesterday. I'm sure you guys had flashes seeing Lamar play the way that he did. Would you guys be happy and content watching the way Lamar Jackson was utilized by the Ravens, with Jayden Daniels having some organized runs, 16 runs per game? Would you guys feel comfortable with that? Or is that too much in your opinion?
That's overkill for me.
Overkill?
Like last
that dude was
night,
trying to run people over last
He was trying to truck
night.
people, so I saw that. It was crazy.
Yeah, he's throwing first of all, Lamar's down to 205, so he's at the lightest he's been in his career. And he's throwing Derrick Henry. Give those shoulders to Derrick Henry and let him run guys over.
Absolutely.
I don't need my 2-time MVP trying to truck stick Bammers in the first game of the season. But last night, Chris Jones and Steve Spagnuolo, they did a master class on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens offense. So Lamar had to do whatever he had to do whatever it takes. He had to put the cape on, and he was in fight or flight mode. So anything that's going to get us up this field, and we got to see a contrast of two different guys at the top of their superpowers going at it, and it came down to the last play and one long ass big toe.
That Devin better start wearing all white shoes, and maybe he'd have got it in on that line. I know that. That was incredible. 300, George, you asked what people thought about his performance. I think it's important to remember they lost, but Lamar went for 395 total yards and 2 touchdowns last night.
Absolutely.
And George, what I tell you about Isaiah Likely,
he did. Yeah, I was thinking about you the entire game. He blew up. It was awesome, man.
And he's going to keep doing that.
Isaiah Likely looked really good, man. And what tells you how great these quarterbacks were last night, both of them had kind of an off day. Mahomes didn't have his best passing day, still ended up with over 300 total yards between rushing and passing, and Lamar over 400, and he left 7 or 8 throws on the field. That one to Likely at the Zay Flowers miss. That's going to haunt him for the next couple of weeks or until he sees Kansas City again. But, man, what an exhibition that was.
Absolutely.
It was fantastic. All right, let's get to some of these score predictions. It's the Bucks +3. The over-under on this thing is 43.5, which I like. I think I would take the over on that, even though on my prediction I'm actually short on that. Let's see. We've always got Nick and Mark to keep us humbled. They always make sure to remind us that we're ridiculous on our picks. Nick went 30-20 Buccaneers. I can't see them giving up 30 points on Sunday.
I think we still, as a whole, we still have Ron Rivera brain. We still have Jack Del Rio brain, and we're waiting to see it before we believe it. But I'm taking it because ultimately – we should not be afraid of Tampa Bay. Yeah. We shouldn't be afraid. They won a playoff game. They won the worst division in football with a 9-8 record, and they look good in the divisional round against the Detroit Lions. But what are we talking? We're talking about a team. Baker inherited a Super Bowl winning roster and won 9 games with them and had his best season passing with 2,000-yard receiver. Isn't that what the number 1 overall pick of his class should do with an inherent Super Bowl roster? I'm not afraid of them, man. I've seen Desmond Ridder cook them, boy. Bring them on Sunday, man.
And part of what we love, and I know you do something similar, Rio, we had Stank Bastard on Wednesday from the Loose Cannons podcast. And one of the great things he mentioned, George, was that like this is like the Tampa Bay's like the 4th or 5th youngest team in the league now.
Yeah.
Like, this was not Tom Brady's Super Bowl team. They jettisoned a whole bunch of senior level guys on the defense. They are relying on a lot of 2nd and 3rd year players like Yaya Diabo to come in and do the work. Keon Yancey, like, I'm with you, Rio. Listen, Vegas had them at 7.5 win totals. They had us at 6.5. I think, like, Vegas doesn't just throw those numbers out there. And for it to just be a 3-point, you get 3 points for being at home.
Exactly right. It's a toss-up game.
Exactly. Right. So Vegas knows Washington is the ultimate enigma coming into week 1.
Absolutely.
Come on now. 13 or 14 new starters, 4 rookie starters, or at least what the depth chart is telling us, an entire new front office, an entire new coaching staff. We are the biggest surprise. No one knows what's coming into Sunday, and there just seems like this cool, calm preparedness that these guys have, and it feels different, man. Maybe it's the Kool-Aid hitting, man, but I believe in it right now.
Rio, which side of the ball are you more confident in, man? I think it's so funny. We have a defensive staff. We have Dan Quinn, Joe Witt. We have all those guys. So you want to think the defense is going to kind of carry the way, but maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit too much. I'm buying into Jayden Daniels. I think the offense is going to be pretty damn explosive, to be honest with you. Like, we'll see. I don't know about the whole wide receiver 2 option, kind of worried about that. But like, I don't know. I feel like the offense is high upside.
They've got Luke McCaffrey as the number 2 wide receiver on the current depth chart. I know it's just a depth chart, but I found that surprising.
I'm with it. I'm here for the entire infusion of youth here in DC.
Absolutely.
I want to say offense because Jayden Daniels is going to do him. I think maybe as fans, we need to be comfortable with the fact that for 1 year, Terry's going to get number 1 targets from an actual good quarterback. So Cliff Kingsbury and Jayden may feed Terry like the wide receiver 1 he's deserved to be since he got here back in 2019. But I'm going to go with the defense. You hire Dan Quinn. He brings his guy Joe Witt Jr. with him. Every stop they've made in the league, they've improved the defense significantly. I'm going to trust Joe Witt Jr.'s design and his tutelage in that cornerback room that he can get more than we expect out of it, because that's the biggest question mark on the roster to me going into week 1. I'm picking the defense because I think the defense is going to be considerably better and it's going to look better immediately.
The DB coach last year was from high school. I mean, literally was coaching high school seniors and juniors on the varsity team, and then became the DB coach for the Commanders. And I thought it was interesting that JP said they had Rondé Barber on today, who said one of the most important things, particularly for corners, is the position coach. And you can't tell me that having a new guy in, the new guys in with experience, particularly in that defensive backfield, won't pay dividends. Now, I'm not saying Emmanuel Forbes is all of a sudden going to become an all-pro, but I don't think he's going to be out there looking lost like he did last year. Like, to me, take everything that happened last year,
Throw it away,
and just throw it away, Rio. There's no doubt. Just throw it away, because I don't know how you're supposed to judge any of that shit from last year.
You really can't. And it was such a bad situation. At the end of the day, players do have to still play. And when you draft a guy in the first round, reach or not, fans should feel they should get first round flashes from a guy in his rookie year. He may not be at his peak, his ceiling right away. I know we like to make an apples to oranges comparison to other guys' rookies, but the combination of just not being ready and the coaching staff, that is why it looked like a nightmare for Emmanuel Ford. So if he just looks like a starting corner this year, that's a start for us. But that defense with actual linebackers now, we're very stout up front. And I think Cleveland Farrell and Dorrance Armstrong are going to be much better than people anticipate. I think it's going to be a lot more of the same that we got production-wise from Montez Sweat and Chase Young. That defense is going to be humming early in the season. Dan Quinn didn't come here to watch his defense be 31st and 32nd ranked in the league like Ron's was.
Rio, you tweeted today about Luvu, and I couldn't agree with you more. I don't know that he's Micah Parsons, but I think they're going to have him flying around. There's no reason to think that he can't be up for some awards this year. And frankly, to leap onto that, I saw the pictures of John Allen, or the video that John Allen did, Ben Standing posted. I think he's down 5, 6, 7 pounds, which I think might be a big deal for him. You know, just 2 years ago, he was a top 10 defensive tackle. Like, he didn't just not be good at playing football. Again, take everything from last year and throw it away. I think these dudes are hungry and excited.
Oh, yeah. They look very hungry and excited. They look like they actually believe in the coaching, because you can rah-rah, you can say, oh, we're going to instill a culture. You can do all we want to. It's clear they loved Ron as a person, but there was also a clear divide and a clear disconnect from coach to player. And it's shown up on every Sunday. The first thing I'm going to look at on Sunday is, does the team look ready and prepared to play? Because how many Sundays did Jay Gruden and Ron Rivera's Washington Redskin football team and Commanders come out and just look unprepared to play? So we're going to find out very early. We're not going to get a full read on it, but we're going to know what the preparedness of this team is going to be like very early on Sunday.
George, we've used, real quick to you, George, we've used the word surprise, and, you know, nobody will know what's coming. And literally, we do 3 shows a week. We talk to people from all over the country that study football, and nobody has been, not even JP was able to give us a clear idea of what they think the offense or the defense will look like. To me, that's our biggest weapon week 1, is the element of surprise.
I love it. I think we're going to be pretty damn balanced for the most part. I think Brian Robinson's going to have a great year. I think we're going to ride him. He might be a 1,000-yard rusher, in my opinion. I think Austin Eckler is going to be someone we kind of utilize out of the backfield and pass the ball a lot with him as well. I think Jayden Daniels is going to do a zone read, man. I think he's going to run the ball more than people think. I don't know if he's going to be running all over the place, but I definitely see him being more of a RPO zone read kind of guy. People keep piping up Zach Ertz as potentially our true second option behind Terry McLaurin. I'm seeing that as well. It's going to be pretty interesting. And I think, just talking to JP a couple minutes ago, I don't think a true wide receiver 2 is going to emerge. Maybe it's me as being a hater. I want Diami Brown to succeed, but I don't see him stepping up and being that guy. I can see it being more of a committee approach and be like, he gets a couple 100 yards, OZ gets a couple 100 yards, Zach Ertz gets a couple 100 yards more collectively. I think McLaurin's going to get that funnel of targets, but I think it's going to be the Jayden Daniels show, and he's going to be that guy, that force multiplier that kind of sips our team up a little bit. That's what I'm looking for this year.
Rio, what are the 3 keys to winning on Sunday?
One, we got to get to Baker so he doesn't have all day to throw to Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and Trey Palmer and rookie Jalen McMillan and tight end Cade Otton and a very good pass catching back and Rashad White. Rashad White had almost 600 receiving yards last year. Nobody talks about it. He was up there with Breece Hall as one of those top-notch Swiss Army knife backs, all-purpose backs there in Tampa. So getting to Baker is number one. We need Payne and Allen to show us some ceiling under better coaching. And we need to get our edges. We gotta make life difficult for Baker Mayfield, because Baker will put the ball up for grabs and at harm's way if you get to him. Number two, on the other side of the ball, we need to establish the run. We can't be out here running the EB system for offense thinking you're just going to pass. We need to show some type of balance, and we need to get Austin Eckler, Brian Robinson, and sprinkled in some Jayden Daniels QB designed runs in there. We need to keep those defensive players on their heels. And number three, key to winning this game is, like you were just saying, just to piggyback off of it, you have to thrive off the element of surprise. Thrive off the unknown. They don't know what Cliff Kingsbury looks like with a quarterback that can see over the line, that you don't have to create and concoct throwing lanes for. They don't know what this team looks like that actually has linebackers now with Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu. They don't know how Jeremy Chinn's going to be used on this team, or what second-year player Quan Martin looks like. Everything is new. We have to take advantage of the newness of this team. So getting the rush involved, a pass rush, and just thriving off the unknown. Those are my 3 keys.
George, your score prediction was high. I think to get there, they'll need turnovers. The defense under Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. has been turnover machines in the past. Is that what you're expecting this weekend?
I do think that. I think our offense will be more explosive. That's what I'm trying to get at. I think Jayden Daniels is going to throw the ball downfield with Diami Brown. I think there will be some turnovers. I just don't know where it's going to come from. It's going to be very interesting. Emmanuel Forbes is supposed to be our ball hawk. I don't know who's going to cover Mike Evans. Maybe Benjamin St-Juste. I don't know what's going to happen there.
The number JP gave about Mike Evans was sick. What was it? In 4 games, it was 450 some yards and 4 touchdowns. That makes me nervous.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I think Rio got the right idea. I think our offense is going to be explosive. I think Jayden Daniels is going to work some magic. I think he's going to flip the field with some big throws down the field. I think Frankie Louvu is going to be blitzing up the middle, up the A gap. He's just going to cause havoc. I think the fan favorites that people might be kind of just learning about now, it's going to be Frankie Louvu and Mickey Sanders still going into the season. Those are going to be the 2 guys that stand out this year, in my opinion. We haven't even seen Bobby Wagner play yet. I can't wait to watch that. That's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm curious. Like you and I talked to Jim Nagy. He said Jeremy Chinn is a great, awesome talent. We haven't seen him thrive yet, so that'll be fun too. But I'm looking forward to Frankie Louvu this upcoming game.
And Rio mentioned him on the humble, but I think Quan Martin's got a real opportunity to move himself into one of those upper echelon safeties. Another guy from the Senior Bowl that those dudes raved about. I remember wanting the guy from Alabama that ended up in Detroit in that nickel spot. He went 2 spots. That's right. He went 2 spots ahead, and then we took Quan Martin. But we were told several times that Quan Martin may be the better player in the Branch may be the better player in the end. Super fast guy, can get all over the field. This defense is not going to be what the defense was last year, and that's obviously a very good thing.
Better not.
What are you hoping to see from Jayden Daniels? I mean, we're all excited for good reason, but I mean, it's his first NFL game on the road against the Todd Bowles defense. We know he's going to blitz the hell out of him in a new offense. while we're drinking the Kool-Aid, let's take 1 second and just try to focus and be realistic on this thing.
Really back in a little bit.
What is realistic to expect from the kid on Sunday?
What's realistic to expect from Jayden Daniels is he's trying to process a lot of information in real time. How he counters a veteran defensive coordinator. They're going to send some things, some exotic looks he's never seen. How he counters, not making the same mistake multiple times in the same game, not getting beat with the same trick. So how he responds, how he counters, and I'm so excited to see him play. Like I'm here for the good. I'm here for the bad. I'm here for the entire roller coaster ride that is a rookie quarterback. I'm so excited because they talk about him like they know. Like it's not like it's a mystery. They're like, no, he's good now and he's gonna be good right away. I'm excited for the entire Jayden Daniels JD5 experience. I think he's gonna come out and national audiences are going to be tuned in immediately. Like there's going to be highlight plays on Sunday, and he's going to flash some of why he was the second overall pick in the draft. Man, I want to see it all.
Rio, is there a rivalry between him and Caleb Williams, in your opinion? Like regarding offensive rookie of the year, potentially? What are you thinking about that?
I hope that the media can start it up. I need them to be Lamar Patrick of the NFC. Need it. I need us to like, bro, the new Peyton and Manning, but like put some swag on it. You know, I want that. Number one versus number two, same class, both the reigning heralded Heisman Trophy winners. I don't think there's a rivalry yet, but I think Jayden Daniels is one of those competitors that tallies all the data. Like he said, he has CJ Stroud stats on his phone as the wallpaper. Like you set the bar.
I love that.
That's the litmus test for me. I'm sure he sees all the conversations crowning Caleb Williams the rookie of the year and saying, yeah, Jayden's going to be good, but, you know, Caleb has more in Chicago. He hears all the noise. And while a humble, soft-spoken guy, you can already tell he definitely has that athletic arrogance to him. I love that.
Like quiet confidence for sure.
The New Jacks call it aura. It feels like he's got it, and it feels like we haven't had that here in a long time.
He radiates with it. He walks in the room, and you feel the aura come in before he takes a step in. I love it.
I do too. All right, fellas. Well, look, we all picked the Bucks, so we'll be looking silly on all.
We all picked the Bucks. You mean we picked the Commanders? We didn't. You know.
But I think it will be an exciting game. I think competing in and out on these things is going to be important. Rio, you'll be back next Friday, right?
Absolutely. Every Friday on the channel when y'all go live, we talk these game picks. I will be popping in here to chime in. Let's get it.
Still, man.
All right, brother. It's Friday.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. Peace. This up, baby.